On that basis, we may as well get started. Welcome everyone to our council meeting for November, the second last of the year. Thanks very much for coming tonight. I welcome all members of the gallery, particularly to members of our junior council, our junior mayor and junior councillor. Welcome to our meeting tonight, and parents of said members. Also to members of the MEHAG group and also the MEAG group, and I'll leave you to the acronyms, but grateful for you to be here. Members of staff, welcome, and also member of the media, welcome Rachel to our meeting. I will, before opening the meeting formally, just advise that the meeting is being recorded tonight, and therefore you need to be aware of that. By being present at the meeting tonight, members of the public do consent to the city recording and subsequently publishing their voice on the city's website. I'd also like to acknowledge that we're here this evening on the lands of the Binjarra Noongar people and pay my respects to elders past and present. Councillor Solani is an apology this evening. He's on a leave of absence. Do we have any members attending the meeting online this evening? There be none. I won't ask for an amendment to the standing orders, but I do need to draw an important members of the public's attention to an important note that any decision that's made at tonight's council meeting can be revoked in accordance with the Local Government Act, and therefore please don't rely on any decision until formal notification has been received. There was a question taken on notice at the previous meeting, a question from Joe Tomlinson, and the answer to that question is included in the agenda. I'll now open public question time at 5:31. Public question time is an opportunity for members of the public to ask a question to the meeting, and we have received a number of questions this evening. First of all, could I welcome Ms. Daniela Butters to the deputation table. Thank you for joining us, representing the Mandurah Environment and Heritage Group. There are a number of questions. I'll invite you to ask your questions entirely. And what will happen then is those questions will be recorded in the minutes and in the agenda, and the responses to those questions will be provided alongside it. Please ask your questions.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Councillors, City of Mandurah staff, members of the public. Thank you for the opportunity to read out these questions to you, despite the fact that we did expect that they would be taken on notice. Heritage tourism is one of the highest growth industries in Australia. The City of Mandurah is well behind the rest of Australia in making use of its heritage assets to reap the economic and community benefits this form of tourism provides. At the monthly council meeting...
Sorry, I did advise you before the meeting started that it's an opportunity to ask questions to the meeting, not for a preamble.
As I said, what I was doing was just reading the little bit that was as written.
So I'm happy to receive your questions to the meeting, please.
Okay. All right. 1, Canopus heritage fishing vessel. Given that the City of Mandurah has been asked to remove Canopus from where the heritage vessel has been stored for the past 11 years, will the City of Mandurah come up with a concrete plan to permanently house Canopus at the Mandurah Museum site?
Yeah, so if you ask all your questions.
Okay. Now, there is a very, very short explanation with all of these. I can go ahead with those. In the recently endorsed master plan for the city centre, a heritage precinct was proposed, incorporating the 3 heritage listed buildings owned by the City of Mandurah: the schoolroom, the agricultural hall, and the police station. 2 of these buildings already make up the Mandurah Museum. The question is it not entirely logical that Mandurah's most important and largest heritage object, Canopus, be housed on this site, either in a new quality shed suitable for public display constructed behind the museum, or under a roof structure built between the museum and the agricultural hall? It is worth noting that Mr. Brian Toussaint is willing to delay his request that Canopus be removed if the City of Mandurah announces timely plans for the construction of a suitable home for this heritage icon.
I'm trying to do the right thing in the fact that you've prepared the preambles to the questions, but strictly by the rules of the meeting, public question time is only an opportunity to ask questions to the meeting. What I think I'll do, given that you've put a lot of work into the kind of commentary around it, is I'll invite you to ask the questions only to the meeting, but I will provide you with an opportunity to table the commentary to the minute officer. Okay. And I'll ensure that the commentary is included in the agenda alongside the questions as preamble to the questions. For the purpose of the meeting, though, I do need to ask you only to read the question that you have for us.
Okay.
And hopefully that's a compromise position.
Okay. Mandurah's maritime heritage. Where and when will the City of Mandurah display these vessels and tell residents and visitors the real story of the fishing village at the heart of the city? Would not the obvious solution be to display these items in a refurbished agricultural hall, also acknowledging this building's history as a schoolroom and Mandurah's first library? The museum boat, number 3. When will the City of Mandurah resolve the issue of licensing the museum boat? When it was, okay, the rest is preamble, I guess. Why has the boat remained unlicensed since the Friends asked the City of Mandurah to take on financial responsibility for their own boat? Question 4, heritage listing. When will the City of Mandurah become proactive in listing and maintaining its own heritage? Why does the City of Mandurah consider that their response, "We are waiting for state heritage listing," is appropriate when you are West Australia's second largest city and claiming to be WA's top tier tourism destination? 5 is a return of heritage plaques. Will these plaques, which help residents and visitors learn of Mandurah's heritage, be replaced? If not, does the City of Mandurah have a plan for a comprehensive new system of heritage identification once the current works on the foreshore are complete? Number 6, is the City of Mandurah willing to relinquish what remains of these items? So this is relinquishment of discarded artworks and heritage items. Is the City of Mandurah willing to relinquish what remains of these items to the Mandurah Environment and Heritage Group for reconstruction on private property? The arch of the wishing well has been sited in the secure compound application. And I believe that is the last part.
Thank you. So those questions, just because they differ slightly to the ones that were submitted, which is not a problem at all, if you're comfortable, I'll ask you to leave that documentation with our minute officer. And as I've said, because of the work that you've put into the preamble will also be included in the agenda alongside the questions. Those questions are, as explained to you, taken on notice, and the full answer to each one of those questions is also provided in the agenda. We'll also make sure that a copy of the questions, the preamble, and the answers to those questions are provided to you once they're available, which is up to a period of a maximum of 2 weeks before we get the agenda out. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And can I just take the opportunity to thank MEHAG for their wider work in the community, both in the environment and heritage space. We very much value your contribution. The next question is from Mr. Chris Wally. And is Mr. Wally here at the meeting? Yes, thank you. I'll invite you to the public participation table to ask your question. Welcome to the meeting. Thank you.
Yes, hello, Mr. Mayor. My name's Chris Wally, and my family name is misspelled.
Right.
7 letters in my family name, not 6.
Yes. Which
Thank you.
You've spelled it correctly on your sheet, so we will spell it correctly on ours. Thank you.
I've been in this town a couple of years now, and from Port Hedland, and I've noticed travelling around in the evening time, night time, that there are a large number of street lights which are simply not operating for whatever reason. They're not operating full. Normally you get street lights that could be individual street lights that could have a bulb problem, but there's so many street lights, one following from the other, even a whole bridge of street lights not working. He tells me, I think we got a fuse problem rather than a globe problem. But in any event, Mr. Mayor, we have a problem in this town with street lights, or too many street lights, not working properly. And I would like the council, if it's possible, to conduct a full audit on all street lights in this town which are not working.
Thank you. I'll ask the CEO to respond to your question.
Thank you. Through the Mayor. So streetlights can either be owned by Western Power, ourselves, or Main Roads. We don't have a allocation or a project to do a streetlight audit. However, we do rely on people making a customer request, identifying any streetlights that aren't working, and we will respond accordingly. So we would strongly suggest that if you do know the locations of the streetlights, if you can contact the city and we can make contact with you, and we will identify them and schedule them to make sure that they are back to working order.
Thank you very much for your question, and I'm also very aware that this gentleman does spend some time reporting to the city street lights that have that are not active, and we very much
Do you want
appreciate
to
it. No, that's all right. We've captured your question.
Right, thank you.
And we will also amend the spelling. Thank you very much for your question this evening. As I understand it, there are some other questions with which notice has been given that was provided to the minute officer this afternoon, but I haven't seen them in the agenda as yet. So they were provided via Councillor Smith to the Director of Strategy and Economic Development, and then were to be provided to the minute officer. What I will ask, no, that's fine. All right. No, they've just been put into the wrong part of the meeting. So they were for public questions, not for questions from an elected member. Given that the questions are here before you, to advise the meeting, the questions have been provided. They'll be removed from this part of the agenda, put into public question time. The questions are being taken on notice. So each one of the questions that have been asked will be provided a response to in notice on the public record. Thank you. Are there any other questions to the meeting? I'll close public question time at 5:41. Councillors, we'll now move to public statement time, and it's my absolute pleasure to invite back to the chamber our junior mayor and junior councillor who will be addressing the chamber this evening. So to Jimmy and Shelby, welcome to the meeting. I'll invite you to the participation table. And this is to get an update from the junior councillors on the project that they've been working on around addressing racism. Can I take the opportunity prior to your deputation to thank you very much for your service this year? And I know that you graduated the other day from the junior council program, but you've done yourselves and your communities and your families very proud, and so we thank you for that.
Hi, Wanji. I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners, the Binjara people, and the Mandurah where we are meeting here today. My name is Jimmy, and I'm the junior mayor, and this is Shelby Ray, and a fellow junior councillor. We are honoured to be here representing the 2024 Mandurah Junior Council to report back on this year's project. Each year, the Junior Council delivers a project to address the issue of greatest concern for young people in Mandurah. Our process followed the 4-step Design for Change framework of feel, imagine, do, and share. We started this year discussing what was the biggest problem in Mandurah for young people. The top 6 issues we brainstormed were racism, pollution, more teen hangout spaces, homelessness, and cleaner public toilets. And then we consulted with our schools, with the majority voting racism as the biggest problem.
We wanted to make sure we reached a wide audience, so we decided to write a script and record a video that we can share with our schools and online. The tagline of our video is Racism Divides and Love Unites. The video was shown at our last graduation on Thursday in front of 130 guests, including some of the city's elected members and the CEO. Junior councillors will now go back to their schools and share the video plus some activities around racism and inclusion. This will help to generate discussion about what racism is and what could be done to address it. We will reach over 1,000 Year 6 students in Mandurah, as well as those who share and view the video online. We will also submit our story to Design for Change, which will then be available on their website to inspire other children around the world. We would like to thank the city for the opportunity to make Mandurah a more inclusive and kinder community for the people from all races around the world.
Thank you both for your public statement. Councillors, at the graduation, the junior councillors informed us that for their project, they came in on time and under budget, which I think was very impressive. But more importantly than that, having viewed the film that they made, I could see it having really significant impact among their peers, particularly around this issue. And one of the really important parts about what they shared during their graduation speeches was a lot of their personal stories where they have witnessed or experienced racism themselves. And so my sense was that it was a project that really meant something to them. And I think they're to be very much commended on their efforts. And so on behalf of the council and the city of Mandurah and the community, thank you very much for your service. We really appreciate it. Councillors, we have a leave of absence request from Councillor Jess Smith from the 23rd of December until the 20th of January. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Shoemaker and the Deputy Mayor. Is there anyone opposed? That's nice, isn't it? That is carried. There are no petitions, presentations or deputations this evening. Therefore, we'll move to confirmation of minutes. Could I ask for a mover and a seconder that the minutes from the council meeting 22nd of October be confirmed? I moved Councillor Rogers, seconded Councillor Wilkins. And is there anyone against that? That's carried. And the special council meeting of the 11th of November 2024, is there a mover and a seconder for that? Councillor Shoemaker, Councillor Pond is the seconder. Is there anyone opposed to that? Also carried unanimously. Councillors, over the course of the month, as is typical for this time of year, there's been a range of events celebrating the great community that we have here in Mandurah and many of the really great organisations that do such good work. We're going to reflect on a few of those now. And to begin with, I'll ask the Deputy Mayor to speak about a very important organisation in our city, the Zonta Club, and the Zonta Founders Day.
Thank you, Mayor. Look, on the 10th of November, Zonta celebrated their Founders Day, and I had the absolute privilege of providing a brief history of Mandurah and the importance of the Peel Zonta Group to Arooma's state and interstate Zonta members. It was a wonderful event with a room full of amazing women who give back to their communities on a daily basis. Their commitment, passion and generosity of spirit is something that we can all learn from. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor, and thanks to all those councillors that were able to attend. Councillor Kearns attended along with other councillors the NAIDOC week opening. Councillor Kearns.
Thank you, through the chair. Yes, I had the absolute privilege of attending the NAIDOC Day welcoming ceremony, which was held at Mandurah Performing Arts Centre. It was really special because Nana Ivy Bennell has come back to Mandurah and she opened the event, which I think meant a lot to her family and the families that gathered. And we also had Trevor Stack who opened the ceremony. And to be honest, this week in Mandurah is a super special week because you get the opportunity to not just experience the Aboriginal culture, but we also get to see some of the extraordinary stars that we have in our community that are part of that NAIDOC Day week. So there were special dancers, there was extraordinary food, we had performers, and that event was great to have the community come together. But throughout that week, we had other events. So we also had the netball, and we had a young student from Mandurah Primary School who at just 10 years of age, because of the support from the city, was able to perform 2 rap songs that she wrote herself. And tell you what, if you ever wanted to be inspired and motivated to learn more about the Aboriginal culture, you should be listening to these young people stand up and speak out about their truth. So a great event and a great week celebrating our community and our people, and just an opportunity for not just their community to come together, but our entire community come together to celebrate our people, which was super special. So yeah, great event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Kearns. And also on behalf of all of us, happy birthday. Councillor Smith attended the Strengthening Mandurah and WA's Aged Care Workforce event along with other councillors. Councillor Smith.
On the 15th of November, I had the privilege of attending a panel discussion on strengthening WA's aged workforce held at the Saltbush Training Centre at the Southwest College of TAFE. This was a very insightful event organised by the City of Mandurah and the Peel Development Commission and facilitated by our very own Mayor Williams. During the session, the Deputy Chair of the Peel Development Commission, Michelle Sidebottom, presented a compelling business case for an aged care workforce and training centre of innovation. So this proposed hub aims to drive innovative solutions to attract, train and support the next generation of aged care professionals. I know from my role as a paramedic how important aged care is in our community, and I've witnessed firsthand the challenges that the facilities, specifically in Mandurah, face trying to retain staff because it's such a demanding job. So this in turn has impacts on our wider community on many different levels, including hospital ramping. So we were also joined by the CEO of the Australian Aged Care Research and Industry Innovation, and they provided a broad overview of transformative efforts underway to try to enhance the aged care sector within Australia. There was a panel of local industry experts, and they had a really good chat about the importance of the human-centred care, emphasising the value of engaged and compassionate caregivers. We were joined by some local Indigenous experts. She was saying how important culturally sensitive on-the-job training is to ensure inclusive care practices and just a collaborative innovation to address the unique challenges within the aged care sector. So the business case is now in place, and I'm eager to see how this initiative will progress, and hopefully we can attract and cultivate the skilled workforce that our region really needs. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Smith. And we should take the opportunity, I think, just to thank, through the Director of Strategy and Economic Development, the Transform Mandurah team and the Peel Development Commission and wider teams who have done extensive work on preparing this as a Transform Mandurah initiative. So thank you very much. Councillor Burns attended, once again, the Mandurah Cut Run, which is a great local event. Councillor Burns, did you have a run?
No, I didn't
right.
participate this year.
That's fine.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, on Saturday, the 16th of November, I was very pleased to represent the Mayor and councillors at this year's Mandurah Cut Run. It's a 13-kilometre downwind ocean surf ski race starting at the Dawesville Cut and finishing at Halls Head Beach. It's regarded and truly regarded as one of the premier 13-kilometre courses in Australia, with world-class race conditions, perfectly complemented by our wonderful coastline. The race is part of a national series called the Ocean Racing Series and is a lead up to the famous Doctor. Dean Gardner, the series founder, ocean racing pioneer, and arguably the best ocean racing paddler Australia has ever produced, is a regular paddler at this event. The Cut Run enjoys the support of the paddling community with over 100 paddlers regularly entering the event. Of the entries, 95% are outside the Peel region, many from eastern states and overseas. This is exactly the type of event that the City of Mandurah is pleased to support, bringing hundreds of visitors to our city to enjoy our wonderful natural environment and hospitality. I congratulate the Mandurah Ski and Kayak Club and all other organisers, volunteers and competitors for another successful event, and I look forward to next year's competition, which I'm sure will be bigger and better than this year's race.
Thank you very much, Councillor Burns. Councillor Pond attended the Alcoa Peel Business Awards. I told you it'd been a busy month, Councillor Pond.
It was a busy month. Thank you, Mayor Williams. Yeah, I attended the 16th of November Peel Chamber of Commerce and Industry Business Awards, along with a number of other councillors and representatives from elsewhere within the local government sector within the Peel region. It was a very good night, a gala theme. So I think a lot of people putting on their best show for the evening. There were many worthy nominees. The room was filled with people who strive for excellence within their own businesses, and it's very excellent to see. And there were very many worthy winners. I'm not going to list them all because we'd be on our own little show here tonight, but there are a few that need to be mentioned. I think the Business of the Year, Hayes Tree Care, was chosen as the Business of the Year, and also the best medium-sized business, I believe it was. So that's a very worthy nominee. It's, I think, important to point out Boundary Island Brewing receiving 2 awards, one for being best large business and also for food and beverage innovation on their activities there. And a special shout out, I think this is a bit of a unique award in amongst the nights because most of them go towards the business owners. This one could be a business owner, but it gets aimed at staff as well. So a special shout out to Natalie Goddard from Sea West for the Tully Cohen's Excellent in Service Award. That's the sort of thing that we really need in the tourism industry. Excellence in service. Thank you.
Indeed. Thank you very much, Councillor Pond. Deputy Mayor, our junior councillors, I don't know why, but I thought they'd want to stay for the meeting, but they've gone home. But we'll speak about them nicely anyway.
We will.
And then we'll tell them off later for leaving early.
Thank you. Look, on the 21st, our junior council, as you heard, of 2024 graduated. What an amazing group of young people they are. This year's theme, as we've heard, was racism, which has absolutely no place in our community, and I congratulate them on their leadership. As an elected member in a council that truly values our young people, being at an event like this is such a proud moment. And I'm sure I speak for the Mayor, Councillor Kearns, Councillor Wright and our CEO who were present on the day. It was a really wonderful event. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Deputy Mayor. Councillors, as is custom at this time of the meeting, I get the great job of being able to acknowledge this month's local legend. And I'm really, really pleased to be able to recognise this very special human being tonight as our council's local legend for November, Jan McGlynn. Hello, Jan. Jan, come on down, as they say. Jan has been a significant contributor to this community for a long time. For the past 18 years, Jan has been involved in the Peel branch of the Seniors Recreation Council and has been president since 2006. And through her leadership, has established many healthy ageing programs and getting people involved in physical, mental health and social well-being of seniors across our region. It's remarkable work that she does. One of the things that Jan does, which is really very special, is the Double Dip initiative, which is an ocean-based exercise session held at Town Beach from January to March. More than 60 seniors members participating with lifeguards on hand. I think that's a good idea. And Jan helps personally set up the beach, manages the registrations, creates a welcoming environment. Former Mayor, Paddy Creevy OAM, is a regular there and tells me that it's always the highlight of her week. Jan also runs the chair yoga and strong on your feet classes, which is something that we can all be mindful of, and offering safe and effective exercise options for seniors in Mandurah, Pinjarra and Waroona. Jan has been someone that in my time as Mayor I've had many occasions the opportunity to work alongside, and every single time I have, she comes to every interaction with absolute commitment and dedication, but kindness and a willingness to help others and never ego, always gratitude. Jan, I just think you are a remarkable being, and it's a privilege for me on behalf of our council and community tonight to be able to recognise you as our local legend. Thank you very much.
To the Mayor and CEO and councillors, I'm very humbled by this award. I'm only a leader with this organisation and have been for the past 22 years, 18 years more full-time than what I was part-time. Previous to this, I was the coordinator of the Senior Centre in Mandurah for a long time, 15 years. And the first coordinator there. And also, when I did leave there, I left because my husband, who was working for the City of Mandurah, an ex-naval officer, he got cancer, and I went into Seniors Recreation Council. Now, a lot of people think Seniors Recreation Council is government funded. It's not. It is helped by government, certainly, but our Peel region here is the most active of any of our branches. We have 12 branches operating throughout the state and go all the way down to Albany. But in Mandurah and in the Peel region, we operate certain things, and a lot of people don't know of some of the things, and you've mentioned it, Mayor, thank you, of some of the things that we do. We do the Strong on Your Feet program, where we have 12 different locations, and we are training volunteers up under the auspices of a physiotherapist from the South Metropolitan Public Health Unit. And what we do there is they are trained and they undergo assessments every 6 months. We have 20 in each class and we run those classes weekly. So it's well over 220 people, seniors, that do this particular exercise every single week. It's a lot of people. The Double Dip, we had 70 people last year. We've had up to 120 in that. And through the City of Mandurah, we have used the lifeguards from the City of Mandurah, giving them extra payment for it. So we do pay for our lifeguards because that gives us the continuity of the program. And Patty Creevy is one of our members there, and she really loves the double dip program, and I'm sure she'll be back again. The other programs that we run that you're probably not aware of, we are the mainstay of Seniors Week, where we run the Have a Go Day up in Perth. And it takes 3 days for that to be set up, and it takes over the entire Burswood Park. Phenomenal event. We used to run one here in Mandurah that ran 2 complete days at the Performing Arts Centre that I was in control of. It was very, very good. And I congratulate the people at the Senior Centre, what the work that they're doing and the support that we get from them for our programs. But I would like to say just a great thank you to the City of Mandurah for the support that we do get. We have had some money through 3-year partnerships with you, and we'll intend to continue our good work within the community. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Jan, for your contribution to the community. And councillors, before ending announcements, I'd just like to tell you about a special member of our staff who is retiring, Paddy Doust. Paddy has been with the city since February the 2nd, 1972, and has witnessed a lot of changes in that time across various roles. She resigned in 1992, and then came back in 1993. And her career began as a typist clerk and went into records, ranges, working at the depot as a purchasing officer, building administration, rates, finally as our accounts payable. And so this remarkable career spanning 52 years in a single local government is a remarkable testament to this individual. So I know Patty couldn't be here this evening, but on behalf of a very grateful council, we'll get you this video link so you can watch it back. Thank you very much for your very long service to the city. I know Mandurah will have changed a lot in that time, but thank you very much for the contribution that you have made, and I think we owe you a round of applause. Councillors, will now move to declarations of interest, and the CEO has received a few.
Thank you, Mayor. The first declaration of interest is an impartiality interest from Councillor Ryan Burns as in relation to the report number 4, October financials, and the impartiality is due to Councillor Ryan Burns being a past player, committee member, and ongoing social connection with the Halls Head Cricket Club, and by fault an association with the Peel Cricket Association. The same report, the financial report for October, Councillor Shannon Wright has a financial interest due to the request for additional funds in his training and development to participate in the Signature WA program. Councillor Bob Pond in the same report, the financial report for October, an impartiality interest through the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, and he was involved with the licensing of the Navara foreshore works. The next declaration of interest is for myself, Talia Jones and Matthew Hall for the confidential attachment for the Waste Alliance agreement, as we are members of the Waste Alliance board, through being employees of the City of Mandurah. The next item is from the confidential item, report number 2, is the City of Mandurah Citizenship of the Year, and Councillor Jess Smith and Councillor Kearns have a impartiality interest as they know some of the nominees, and Councillor Ryan Burns for the same report has an impartiality interest due to an immediate family member being a part of a organisation that is a nominee.
Thank you very much, CEO. Are there any other declarations that anyone wishes to make to the meeting? There be none. I'll just remind members of their obligations in relation to those that are financial or proximity in nature. We'll move now to the next part of the meeting, which is in relation to questions from elected members. Noting that there were some questions tabled in the agenda that were in the wrong part of the meeting, so they've now been moved to public question time. And there is a question from Councillor Burns, several questions from Councillor Burns, of which notice has been given. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Regarding the Australia Day 2025 community events program, while I appreciate the efforts to promote inclusivity and understanding, I wonder if focusing on cultural differences on a day intended to bring us together as a nation might risk being seen as divisive by some. Could you please elaborate how these activities are designed to highlight our shared values and commonalities, as well as celebrate our diversity, to ensure the day fosters unity across the entire community? Was the decision to allocate funds to support the interactive activities, such as the Indigenous Community Art Project and performances that engage diverse groups and promote understanding and unity within our community, a city staff decision or a requirement or condition of the grant? Rather than increasing the funding for extension of activities, why didn't city staff offset the expense for existing planned activities and therefore reduce the financial burden on ratepayers?
Thank you. I'll direct the question to the CEO.
We will take all of those questions on notice.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions to the meeting with which notice has not been given? There being none, we'll now move into the business of the meeting. First item that we're going to be dealing with this evening is the proposed seabed lease. Is there a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation? Moved to Councillor Wright, seconded Councillor Wilkins. Councillor Wright.
Through the chair. Just a quick one. The report itself just outlines how the development costs and infrastructure maintenance are going to be covered. Public access continues through the floating jetty, and that's going to be maintained as well. I think the city's professional approach aligned with the Department of Lands Planning and Heritage, Lands and Heritage, which ensures the appropriate tenure arrangements and safeguards public use. The proposal ensures the development serves the proponent's operational needs whilst the community's access rights are maintained, generating long-term revenue for infrastructure sustainability. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Wright. Councillor Wilkins.
All right, there's not much more to add. It's good to see that the annual rent fees and maintenance contributions will also be allocated to the Mandurah Seawall Reserve, which is a bonus for the residents in that area. And I think we all know how important jetties and boat pens are for tourism in our area, so it's good to see this being managed properly.
Thank you very much, Councillor Wilkins. Is there any questions? Anyone wishing to speak against the motion? There be none, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. With the item having been carried, can I just thank the staff for their extensive work in the conversations that have led to the report being tabled this evening. The next item is the policy review for memorials, and the recommendation is on the screen before you. This is the officer's recommendation, the amended officer's recommendation that was circulated earlier today with a couple of amendments. Is there a mover and a seconder for the officer's amended recommendation? Councillor Kearns, seconded the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Kearns.
Thank you, through the chair. I fully support the officer's recommendation and the proposed council memorials policy. As a chaplain, I'm acutely aware of the sensitive nature of memorials, and I commend the officers for their careful and thoughtful work in creating this updated policy. Memorials play an important role in our community, offering a way for families to honour and remember their loved ones. At the same time, they can present challenges when placed in public spaces, which is why clear, consistent guidelines are essential. The policy strikes an important balance, offering a practical management while respecting the emotional significance these memorials hold. I particularly appreciate the inclusion of guidelines for respectful stakeholder engagement and the thoughtful consideration of alternative memorialisation options such as tree planting. The policy ensures that decisions are made transparently and compassionately, addressing both the community's needs and the city's responsibilities. I believe this policy will serve our community well, providing a clear and empathetic guidance for managing memorials. I fully support the officer's recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Kearns. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Look, very much in agreement with Councillor Kearns. And I'd really like to thank the officers for what's been a very thorough review and the workshop that's been undertaken with councillors. It is a very balanced and respectful policy, so very thankful for that. I would like to also thank the MEAG group for their comments, which are included in the report, and the proposal to include tree planting as a way of remembering loved ones within our community. But yeah, very supportive of this policy.
Yes, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Is there any questions in relation to the policy? Is there anyone wishing to speak against? There be none, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? That's carried unanimously. The next item is the structure plan review, and before asking for a mover and a seconder, I will invite Mr. Dreco, our Manager for Strategic Planning, or something of the like, to give his presentation to the Council. Mr. Dreco's had about 400 titles in the time that he's been here, and so I can't remember what it is currently. Changed since last time he emailed. Manager for Strategic Planning and Urban Design. My point exactly. Thank you, Mr. Dreco.
Thanks, Mayor-elect members. Fair to say I had a bit of feedback putting this report together that there was a little bit of misunderstanding about what this report's about. So I'm hoping that I can explain that to everyone fairly simply, and through this presentation might generate a couple of questions, which I'm happy to address, but we'll do the best we can with the resources we've got. So historically, structure plans were required for new subdivisions for new developments throughout Mandurah and also broadly in the Perth metropolitan region. And they also had what was called the force and effect of the local planning scheme. So effectively, they replaced all the rules and regulations relating to development. And that operated quite well for a number of years. And then they also became another tool to manage activity centres and precincts in terms of development and design outcomes. And so they became a bit of a beast. And the government of the day decided that some changes were required. And 10 years ago, or nearly 10 years ago, some regulations were introduced, which meant that the structure plans no longer had the same force and effect that they originally did, and they became what's called a due regard document. Now, we could talk about what due regard means for another 2 hours tonight, but we won't labour the point. It just means that they're not as important as they used to be. And critically, the regulations introduced a 10-year approval period, which from the city's perspective was well supported as we had sought to amend our planning scheme at the time to actually introduce these ourselves. So it was good to see that some of our advocacy work transitioned into regulation. Before our current planning scheme came into effect in 2022, we had quite extensive areas that required structure plans within the city, and the image on the left-hand side shows those areas. Just over 2,300 hectares of land required another layer of planning on top of the standard zoning that was applied through the planning scheme. And then when transitioning into the new scheme in 2022, that was significantly reduced by 1,600 odd hectares by what was called normalising the structure plan. So the land had been developed, subdivided, and the zoning that was on the structure plan was then translated into a standard, predominantly residential zone into the local planning scheme, together with a density code. And that all happened back in 2022, and our planning scheme maps as a whole looked something like this, with 3 zones requiring still a structure plan, and I'll go into them in a little bit more detail. 2022, after the scheme came into place, we went through a review period. We had 59 structure plans at the time. As a result of a report in July of 2022, 30 of those were revoked as the land had been rezoned. 11 had their areas revised because part of their structure plan area had been rezoned, and we have 28 currently operative. Primarily, the purpose of the report tonight is that in October 2025, we have a number of those plans will expire or their approval period will cease to exist. And that has some implications for a number of reasons. For significant or larger land projects, there's a lack of certainty on their approvals for next stages of development. And for others that have already been developed, they effectively won't be zoned. So for house building and approvals, that becomes a little challenging. So in order to address that before that October 25 date, there's a number of options that the city needs to consider. And we're not the only local government that needs to deal with this. There's some 2,500 structure plans in WA that need to go through this same process. And the options are to normalise them, and that's basically pick up the information that's on the current plan and put it into a standard zone or reserve that's in our planning scheme. Second option is to extend the approval period, or the third is to do no action at all and actually allow the structure plan approval to lapse. And what we've found in our review is that some plans will have multiple actions. Again, using a similar slide to before, on the left is the plan that was shown before. So that's our current situation of locations that need a structure plan. And on the left is the outcomes of this report with the reduced areas that will be subject to a structure plan. The annotations there are a reflection of the locations of each of the attachments of areas that are proposed to be rezoned. Now, I had endeavoured to go through each individual plan separately, but going through 31 of those, I suspect that the time constraints might kick in.
Good decision.
So I've done a very quick snapshot summary based on districts, and I've got 2 examples to show how each of the plans will be dealt with. So on the left-hand side, again, the existing situation, and on the right-hand side, what is proposed as a result of this report. The numbers represent the plan numbers that are in the agenda in the table on pages 32 to 38, and again the numbers represent the attachments that are in the agenda. So basically, Mandurah North is probably the area that's had the most area of development in the last number of years, and so the most significant changes. So most of the structure plans either be reduced in area, or some of them, because of development has been completed, are proposed to be revoked. And just by way of 2 examples, Mandurah Bay North. So on the left-hand side, we've got the existing structure plan. Middle image there is an aerial photo of the current stage of development, the red boundary being the current structure plan boundary, and the area in the black boundary showing what's been developed as part of that plan. And then on the right-hand side is what's proposed to be rezoned. So that's what we've called a part normalisation. And for Mandurah Bay East, similar situation here, but this whole land has now been largely developed and or is in the process of being developed. So this whole structure plan will be all fully normalised, and the structure plan itself will cease to have any approval period. Similar to the central area and east, primarily in the eastern area, a number of plans proposed to be amalgamated together as to one plan that the city is currently working on, primarily around the health campus. Plans 15, 16 and 18 will be merged into one. Plans 17 and 19 have been developed, so they will no longer continue to operate, and Plan 11 will be reduced in area. Plan 22, sitting at the bottom end of Curtin up there, that is one plan that we're suggesting is lapses, and the landowner will need to prepare their own plan in due course should they choose to subdivide it in the future. The island district, the colloquial island that we have, primarily most of this land has now been developed, so any structure plans that apply in there are no longer to exist except for around the Horsehead and Falcon district centres, and there is some work to do to improve those plans and their projects city's officers have listed for the next 12 months. And Dawesville, also a location where significant development has been taking place. A number of those plans, 25, 26, will no longer exist. 27 and 28 proposed to be extended. They probably will be fully developed before the end of the 10-year period. Plan 30 and 31 has some challenges environmentally. And so the recommendation of this report is to do nothing and let the landowners deal with those complexities down the track. And those discussions have started happening with that landowner group. And should they choose to continue to pursue urban development of that site, that will come to council in due course. So to explain the 4 pages of recommendations in one slide, essentially we're recommending to extend the approval period for 9 of the structure plans. Most of those have active development happening in them at the moment. The second recommendation is to adopt a new amendment to the planning scheme to normalise a number of those structure plan areas to the standard zones and reserves in the scheme, and those are the attachments 3.1. And in doing that, as part of the planning scheme regulations, there needs to be a statement stating why that amendment is happening. 7 of the plans are proposed to be revoked, and 5 plans are proposed to be amended by area only. And the outcome will be that 184 hectares of current land zoned urban development will be rezoned, and into the future we'll end up with 20 structure plans, which is a significant reduction of what we had 5 years ago. I should also mention that all of these actions are not going to change any development outcome on any parcels of land. This is primarily procedural only, and it's a matter of just trying to streamline and simplify our planning framework.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dreco. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder for the officer's recommendation. Moved the Deputy Mayor, seconded Councillor Wright. Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Look, this is a comprehensive report, and Mr. Dreco has provided a very comprehensive overview of it. It is very procedural. Nothing is going to change. It really, in layman's terms, is really just tidying things up. So you're very comfortable with what's being proposed, even though it makes for very dry reading. Thank you.
Dry reading. How could you say such a thing to Councillor Wright?
Through the chair, and thanks again for the presentation. I think that it just brings a bit more efficiency to how the city operates. So I'm all for that. If there's anything around that saves money, well done.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? No. Councillor Shoemaker.
Thank you, through the chair, to Mr. Dreco. In relation to this document and the West Australian state government's, what could I say, push to overtake more and more planning decisions away from local government, what effect does this document have on West Australian government making decisions in relation to subdivisions and developments?
Thank you to the
manager. Thanks, Councillor Shoemaker, for the question. Through the Mayor, this report won't have any impact on any of the approval processes. The West Australian Planning Commission's been the decision maker for structure plans since the structure plan process was created back in the 1990s, and together with rezoning sits with the Minister, so no changes that have been in place for a very significant time. Doesn't say that there aren't other challenges going on, but this report has no impact on those.
Any other questions to the meeting? Anyone wishing to speak against? There be none, I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Anyone opposed? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, Mr. Dreco. Final item this evening before heading into confidential items is the finance report. We'll allow Councillor Wright to depart the chamber. Or asking... Oh, actually, would you like to hear the manager's presentation? You may, absolutely. I know you don't ever want to miss it. So I'll invite the manager for finance to come and give his presentation in relation to the financials for this month. And for the members of the public, you should know that Manager for Finance always really enjoys having an audience. To the manager.
Thank you, through the chair. the finance report for October 2024. Just a quick look at the graphs for the operating side of things. So you can see on the left, the graph for operating income right on the line, and the graph for operating expenditure just below the line, where we would like to see them. So operating well on operating. And for the capital side of things, for non-operating income, we are a little bit below budget. However, that line usually has a bit of an uptick as we start progressing capital projects. And capital expenditure on the right-hand side, you can go back a slide.
Not trying to hurry you along.
Thank you. We are operating below budget at the moment. We do see or tend to see an uptick in the expenditure as we go along throughout the year. For the interest trends, we can see the interest saved through our loan offset facility currently sits at about 78,000, and term deposits are attracting rates of around 5.2%. That's been the same for a number of months now. For our rates receivable, we did see a large amount of rates come through in the month of October, so we are very close to where we were last year, given that the due date was back a little bit from the previous year. That's a good result. So October 23, we were 58.4% collected, and October this year we are 57.2%. Just a quick look at the properties that owe greater than 10,000. Again, we did see a large decrease over the last couple of months. So we are trending down towards last year's line, and the same with the 3,000 to 10,000. I'll take the budget variations as read in the report, and also the tenders for October 2024. I'd like to note that the city's procurement team observed the tender evaluation process and is satisfied that the probity and procedural aspects relating to the evaluation were compliant. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Could I ask for a mover and a seconder as we allow Councillor Wright to depart the chamber given his financial interest in relation to this item? Is there a mover and a seconder? Yes, thank you, Councillor Pond, and seconded the Deputy Mayor. Councillor Pond.
It's good to see that we're tracking well with the receivables coming through, and I acknowledge that slight delay. We were a little later getting out rate notices, if I'm not mistaken, this year. And the expenditures seem to be tracking well. The variations that were nominated seem to be in line and will allow some important work to go on. So I would encourage my fellow councillors to endorse that. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you. Probably not a lot more to add, but I would just like to note the new capital expenditure of 40,000 for the Mandurah Bay, oval fencing, which is being funded by the Department of Education, I believe, but has been much sought to protect the children up at that school from the road. So very happy to see that in there. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any questions? Is there anyone wishing to speak against finance? Councillor Burns speaking against?
Thank you, Chair. I am disappointed I wasn't able to receive a detailed response to my questions earlier on in the meeting, which were emailed at 1:30 this afternoon. I always look for opportunities to reduce the cost and the burden on ratepayers. In recent years, I've seen the city acknowledge and celebrate our rich cultural history, and we do it very well. At face value, I see regarding the Australian Day grants, I see it as an opportunity to reduce burden to ratepayers and offset what ordinarily may have been planned with the $15,000 grant funding. It's therefore, in absence of further information, I unfortunately can't support the officer recommendation in their entirety.
Thank you. Are there any other members wishing to speak for the motion? There be none. I'll put the motion. Those in favour? Those opposed? Councillor Shoemaker and Councillor Burns and Councillor Kearns are opposed. The motion is carried. We'll now move behind closed doors and invite Councillor Wright back into the meeting. Because we're heading into confidential business, I'll thank the members of the public, members of staff and members of the media for their attendance tonight. Councillors, could I ask for a mover and a seconder that Council endorses the recommendations made behind closed doors, the Deputy Mayor and Councillor Pond? Unlucky. Anyone opposed? It just never gets old. That's carried. Councillors, that is the end of the meeting. Please do not leave the chamber. I'll close the meeting at 6:35.